throughout this entire process, you can't help but talk about Bo and Drew Brees and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I don't really look at Drew Brees as being the comp for me, because I want to look at quarterbacks that are successful in the NFL today and try to come up with a suitable comparison. I don't see why he can't be Joe Burrow. To me, when I shoot the moon with Bo Nix, I think of Joe Burrow, who, by the way, Johnny Fever pointed this out. For all the talk about Bo Nix being a 24-year-old rookie, you know who else was a 24-year-old rookie? Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
I bet a lot of people don't know that.
They probably
forgot about it.
Yeah, he's got an interesting story. For one, you know how Stink is with Tom Brady? That's me with Joe Burrow, just so you know. I love Joe Burrow. I think because Patrick Mahomes is Mahomes.
Joe Cool? You like Joe Cool?
He's the one quarterback in the NFL that his team, they are the only team, and they follow his lead, and I think they have a great coach, that look at the Chiefs and say, we're not scared of you. Everybody else in the NFL, the Bills, the Ravens, the Bengals, and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow looks at Mahomes and goes, I'm better than that guy.
Yeah. And that's my challenge to all these supposed heirs to the throne, or at least competition for the throne. Somebody show some backbone and stand up to this guy, because at least you could say that even during the Tom Brady reign,
I love Tom Brady.
Plenty of other people got their chance to eat. There you go. I said it again. That's like it's like a streak now. I'm trying to do that. It's a Russell Wilson smear campaign. I'm trying to let this guy eat at some point during the show. But Peyton won 2. Roethlisberger won 2. Eli won 2. Rodgers got 1. Flacco got 1. Brees got 1. There were guys that still said, hey, don't forget about me. And we're still waiting in this age of Mahomes for somebody to nut up and stand up to this guy. And you're right. If you're looking for quarterbacks that at least temperamentally look like they have what it takes, Burrow's one of them. So I look at Burrow.
I like that comp.
I like that. But here's a different one. And I want to know if Broncos country would be okay with this, because I've heard this a few times throughout the whole Bo process. I heard it again recently, that Bo Nix gives off Derek Carr vibes. How would you feel, Broncos country, about Bo Nix being Derek Carr? Now, before you react, and I just your first visceral reaction was a good one, and I think I can just imagine a lot of Bronco fans listening right now kind of having the same reaction. All right, his rookie year, we were talking about rookie years, what you would be happy with. Derek Carr's rookie year in Oakland, 3,300 yards, 21 touchdowns, 12 picks.
It's a good year.
Then he went into a stretch there of 2 more years, next 2 years, 4,000 yards, 32 touchdowns. Next year, 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns. Had first year in Vegas, 4,100 yards, 27 touchdowns. I mean, the guy has been a consistent 20, basically averaging 23, 24 touchdown passes a year. And he's kept his interceptions down as well. He's been a consistent 2-to-1 touchdown to interception, high percentage, pretty good yardage passer for his entire career. How would you feel about Bo Nix being Derek Carr?
So I know I gave that reaction. I always put Nix on a scale of Andy Dalton to Drew Brees. And where does he fall? But I don't love the Brees thing like you, but I don't think he Paxton Lynches it.
Right.
I think, so Carr is a good one. Carr, to the Joe Burrow point, I will give Carr this. He would go in and beat the Chiefs. He would come up in big games. That 2015 Broncos team defense beat the holy hell out of him, and he stood in there and won a game in Denver. Now, Khalil Mack had 5 sacks, but Carr,
Michael Schofield.
Carr, you wonder. Carr I don't hate, because he was in a very dysfunctional organization as well. He was with a team that doesn't have a lot of money, a team that had all sorts of coaching issues. Gruden comes in, trades Amari Cooper, trades Khalil Mack, doesn't do anything with the draft picks. So anything good he had, they never could sustain with the Raiders. But he got him with that Bisaccia. He got him to the playoffs.
Yep.
And they hung with Joe Burrow and the Bengals that year. So Carr, while I don't hate the comparison, because I think Derek Carr in the right situation could have gone deep into the playoffs, I don't know if at the end of the day, when you're in that AFC Championship game, if the Joe Burrow, if the Patrick Mahomes are sitting there going, oh no, guys.
But if Derek Carr had
Sean Payton
for the first 5 years of his career,
what could have been? So Carr, I don't hate that. I always liked him. The truth is, a few years ago too, when it sounded like the Raiders might get rid of him, I was sitting there going, hey, I'll take him. I'll take Carr. You can win with a guy like Carr. Is it as sexy as Joe Burrow? No.
Mm-hmm.
But he would, here's how I'll put it with Carr. He would go out and win games. He wouldn't game manage his team to win. When they won big, he would be a primary reason. He would lead late drives. So there was something there with Carr. I think he's done now, unfortunately for him. But there was a period of time where you could win with Carr.
You would be banking on the idea of, okay, this is a guy who's actually a really good quarterback. Not great, but does he pass into greatness if allowed to work with a guy like Sean Payton? We hear all the time about fit and a quarterback being blessed with the opportunity to find that right fit. I know on the surface, Broncos country probably doesn't want to sign up for a Bo Nix, Derek Carr comparison. But if you start thinking about what would Derek Carr have been like with Sean Payton, if you believe in Sean, then does history look at Derek Carr a lot differently? I think they do.
I think that I'm going to give you a name.
All right.
I'm a fan of this guy. A lot of people aren't. He's a first-round pick. And I'm not talking stylistically. I'm talking effect on the game. Phillip Rivers.
I like Phillip Rivers.
I love Phillip Rivers.
Hey,
I love Phillip Rivers.
For a long time, and it wasn't popular around here, but I said, hey, I would be the first guy to drive out to the airport to pick up Phillip Rivers and bring him back into town.
I loved him.
Okay?
Loved him.
Again, you talk about somebody who he drove you crazy, but you never got the sense he was intimidated out there, did you?
No. And that's what I loved about him.
And by the way, early on when he was getting into it with Jay Cutler, we all sided with Cutler. But as history kind of showed that maybe Phillip Rivers was coming history will look back as Phillip being on the winning side. How about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Phil went. Yeah, he was right. I used to see Cutler downtown, and I'd yell, "Hey, punch Phillip Rivers in the face," and he would think Cutler thought that was the greatest thing in the world. But he would love it. But Phil had an impact.
Smoking Jay.
Smoking Jay. If we could get that Phillip, because Phillip Rivers is another guy like Carr. I think Phillip Rivers was better than Carr. But he was a guy that's like, if he's in a different organization, does he get that ring?
By the way, I said yesterday I think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer.
First ballot.
Oh, I wasn't even going to go there.
First ballot.
Really? You think first ballot?
He didn't.
Wow.
Yeah, like
I don't know. I think to be a first ballot
you gotta
Hall
get
of
the Super
Famer,
Bowl.
you got to have he didn't even play in a Super Bowl.
No, and they screwed him so bad.
But I do think he's a Hall of Famer.
He's absolutely a Hall of Famer. I like
Phillip Rivers was a better quarterback than Eli Manning, and Manning's going to skate into the.
He was a better quarterback than Roethlisberger.
Ooh,
I would have taken him.
I don't know. For a time there, Big Ben was dealing.
I'd have taken Phil. Everything even. Again, stable organization, stable coaching staff. You set the quarterback up to succeed. Phil, I mean, they went 14-2. They fired Marty, and Wade was the D coordinator. They got rid of him. And brought Norv Turner in, and we're just so loyal to that guy.
No, we look at, I think one of the reasons I side with Phillip Rivers is that fit, right?
Yeah,
it's the fit. It's the idea of not only the coaching fit, but the organizational fit, right? And
that's why Bo works here.
Yeah, it's why Sean, I think, felt that this was a good place to come, because we didn't have that. And Joe Ellis was put in a tough situation. He was never really the owner, but once you lost Mr. Bolin, it kind of changed. And ownership does matter. You talk to anybody who's been around this league for a long time, they will tell you the pillars of an organization includes the ownership. The ownership has to not only be willing to spend the money, but it has to avoid the chaos. It has to avoid the dysfunction. And so far, are you impressed? Are you hopeful with what you see from this new ownership group?
I love them because they do. What I wanted from them was what I see from the Ravens owner, whatever that guy's name even is. He steps out when he needs to, but he puts the right people in charge and he lets them do their job. And the Ravens are continually a successful organization with the right people in place. Penner steps out when he needs to. He's willing to make the hard decision when he needs to, but he also lets he's not handing plays to coaches, and he's not drafting the players.